And as Karina mentioned, the fight against Ebola has received a $100 million donation from Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. That's about 4 times his earlier pledge of $26 million. Allen has also created a website, tackleebola.com, aimed at directing smaller donations. Still, so far the disease is not generating as big a response as other catastrophes or disasters. And for more on why, we're joined by Doug White. He's the director of the fundraising management program at Columbia University and the author of the book, Abusing Donor Intent. Doug, good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So Doug, why is the fight against Ebola not generating such a big response in terms of donations?
It's a bit of a mystery, but I think there are a few reasons why. One is I don't know that the American public has decided yet whether it's a real crisis or whether it's a health problem. That's number one. That would differentiate it from, let's say, an earthquake or something like that. Number two, the death toll is growing slowly. With a normal crisis, you have a lot of people who die immediately, and so you don't have that sense of largeness. And finally, you don't have the visual that you normally have. And I hate to put it in those terms, because Ebola is as bad or worse than many other things, but we don't have the cameras looking at the destruction of a crisis that you would have in a earthquake or something like that.
We may not have the visuals, but there certainly is the element of this could affect me. I've just reported that there's a case of Ebola here in New York City. So there is the threat that this could evolve, that you and I could potentially become impacted by this if no cure is found and if it's not contained, whereas after an earthquake, that's after the fact, and as an individual donor, I probably wouldn't be affected by that. Why is that self-preservation instinct not factoring in here?
We still feel distant from it. We still feel it's contained mostly to Africa. And I know that a lot of people say that we should worry because it's coming from there to other countries. We've been in Spain and now
in New
here
York City, in Dallas, in Atlanta.
And we've done a very poor job of containing it. And as I was coming over to the studio tonight, that story broke. The person coming back from West Africa to now he's in Bellevue, as you reported. And the question is that going to create more urgency among donors here in the United States? I suspect it might, because it's that kind of story, but still, outside of that, we should have been doing more.
Why have we not been doing more? Why are we not seeing awareness campaigns, social media campaigns, concerts, celebrities joining the fight, as we usually do in the case following a big natural disaster or a catastrophe?
The reason, I don't know, but I think the reason has to do with the sense of urgency. Although it's big and it's a big problem and it's growing, we don't see it here. We don't see it within ourselves. And that's one of the bigger problems when it comes to charitable giving. A lot of us have this impulse, and you said earlier that the United States has a tremendous charitable impulse, but we do so in many cases in response to a thing, and that thing hasn't yet been really defined.
Doug, if somebody wants to make a donation, which are the organizations that are best at channeling this?
Well, as you said earlier, Paul Allen just donated $100 million, and what he did, he gave that to the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and he established a program called Tackle Ebola, and you can go to tackleebola.com, and there you'll see all of the ways money can be used to fight this. Now, there are other organizations too, the International Red Cross, and the CDC Foundation, and Doctors Without Borders is doing a great job, or the Medicine Sans Frontières, it's known.
And how are these funds that are being collected being used? Are they used to purchase hazmat suits? Are they treating the victims? Or are they going towards Big Pharma's development of potential vaccines or cures?
A friend of mine called last week and wanted to know exactly how her money would be used. And in her particular case, she wanted the money to go to hazmat suits, protective gear for the people who are going in on the ground to save these lives. Most of the money will go to that kind of thing, to protect the community or to serve the community. It won't go typically to research or medical activity, except through the CDC or the World Health Organization.
Doug, what can be done to galvanize more funds and to better coordinate these initiatives?
One of the problems is, despite our greatness when it comes to nonprofit activity, is we're not really working together in a lot of ways. In this particular case, I would hope that a lot of organizations would start to work together to galvanize the message, to clarify it and say, this is what we need the money for. It's partly the responsibility, I think, of the nonprofit organizations.
Okay, we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you for your insights, Doug White, Director of the Fundraising Management Program at Columbia University and author of the book Charity on Trial, as well as the author of the book Abusing Donor Intent.